He's carving himself a terrific career on television, as you could see him on all the shows on ESPN. Here on the Rich Eisen Show is Marcus Spears. Good to see you, Marcus. How you been?
Rich, what's up, brother? What's up? Let me go ahead and get this bone off my chest that I got to pick with you, Rich.
Okay.
This is year 11, Rich, and this is my first time on the show.
Oh, my goodness.
So
Wait a minute. That's not true. Is it true?
When was I? When? I don't remember. It's your producer's fault, Rich. It ain't me and you.
Okay,
it's
no.
Producer's fault.
Well, first of all, if I could have sworn, you're giving me that look like that is true.
Be.
No, it might be. It could be. It is.
Yeah. It's his first time on
Marcus,
the show.
Because I've been wanting to come on the show, so that's how I know. Man.
Okay, well,
but nah, man, it's an honor to be on with you, brother.
I appreciate it, and I really am enjoying, your work, and
Thank you,
and it, It's so not easy to break into television, and when did you know you really wanted to do it, Marcus? When did that happen?
Rich, it was really LSU, man. I had a great sports information director, a dude named Michael Barnett, who kind of introduced me to how to make yourself more valuable off the field. Obviously, on the field, I was having some success, so I talked to him about it quite a bit, did a lot of interviews. I would say yes to a lot of stuff at LSU as well. And then when I got to Dallas, you've been in this long enough to know that this is a 24/7 news cycle when you play for the Cowboys. And I had, ESPN was in the locker room every day. Ed Werder was there. We had a lot of reporters, a lot of cameras that followed us around, and media availability in Dallas is probably different than anywhere else in the NFL. They have the ability to be in the locker room on a day in, day out basis. And then, brother, I did a radio show on my off days with a guy named Brady Tinker, who is here in Dallas, been a staple in media. So it was building to that point, Rich. But honestly, man, when I was released from Baltimore, I knew I wanted to do something. But for me, that was going to be, I wanted to go and kind of be a consultant. This was my business. This was my entrepreneurial cap. I wanted to be a consultant for newspapers. It's for the sports writers, for when they write sports stories and when they talk about games, that they would have an understanding of the game so they could write it. It was the DB fault, but really the safety was supposed to be over the top.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw so many of those arguments in the locker room with writers who, and I feel almost out of place and uncomfortable saying it, that didn't really know the game from the detail standpoint. So they would write without context at times. So my idea was that. So when I retired, bro, I went and interned at the Dallas Morning News for $2.75 an hour.
Wow.
And wanted to kind of learn the business and realize real quick, Rich, that the cubicle life was not for me, brother. But I really learned a lot. I enjoyed my time at the Dallas Morning News. And then my sister hit me and was like, yo, you see they're starting the SEC network. And obviously in the locker room, we would argue all the time. I'm sure it still goes on about the SEC versus other conferences. And I was like, yeah, that'll be dope. So, and then my wife knew I was trying to pursue radio. I was going to do a radio show here in Dallas. And she was like, no, you need to be on TV. You need people to see your personality. You love to have fun. You know the game. So my sister and my wife pushed me. And then I sent a tweet to a producer at ESPN, Stephanie Drewley.
And you know her?
Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And she hit me back, and I was like, I want to, Rich, I was so green. I was like, I want to try out for a spot at SEC network. And that word try out funny to me now because obviously it's audition. And she hit me back, and she said, send some reels. And I was like, fishing reels? Like, why would she want reels? Like fishing reels for me to send when I'm trying to get a job on TV. That's how naive and green I was, bro. And
I love it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she was like, so send something you've done. So I tried to compile stuff that I did. and I eventually got the audition and went up to Bristol and auditioned and got the job, man.
Hey, I remember going to Bristol for my audition. I was 26 years
Oh,
old. I didn't know anything either.
yep,
So,
yep,
I thought
yep.
I did, and it's kind of crazy. But just hearing your story, Marcus, you're like, you know what? The first thing I wanted to do is make sure those who talk about the sport understand the sport.
Yeah,
And now you do what you do with the people you do it with in the business in
I
which you do
know.
it. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. You must be, really teaching.
Rich, I would like to think I know something about it, man.
Yes,
I've
you
spent
do.
my 10,000 hours, bro.
Well, and that's the beauty of the shows that you're on as well, right? Like that you're on the shows that there's arguments about it, and you gotta get into that trench, verbal trench, if you will, and then obviously the NFL Live, where you are talking some really smart football with some smart people who know what they're talking about. It's pretty cool. And so before we just jump in, so was Parcells the guy who was on the phone with you on draft night, 20th overall back in 2005? Like your phone rings and that's Bill Parcells on the other end of the line?
Yes, sir. And it was
that?
crazy because obviously playing for Saban, you had that connection with those guys. But Rich, it was so funny. I was super excited. I'm sitting in the family room with my family at my sister's apartment. We waiting on the announcement, and literally Bill gets on the phone and said, "I want you to show up at 3:10. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Congratulations."
That's it.
And that was it. That was it, bro.
Not welcome to Dallas Cowboys or nothing like that?
Nah, man, it was down to business. And I think it was
wow.
I think it was his rapport with Nick Saban that kind of made him feel super comfortable. But the first 2 years, I wanted to punch Bill Parcells in the face every day. I didn't like him. I didn't like him at all. But when you're young, you got this mentality. And I'm coming from LSU where I'm an All-American. I done everything on the field. You got this mentality that you just usher into the NFL and you straight. But Bill, I got to give him a lot of credit for teaching me how to be a pro, man. But those first couple of years, man, was rough. I was coming from a 4-3 to a 3-4. I had to plate blocks and hold up blocks for linebackers. I wasn't getting sacks, and I'm like, man, this sucks. And then they made me understand, the job is the job, and carved out a really good career from doing it.
Marcus Spears here on the Rich Eisen Show. So Jerry Jones, the Cowboys, football. Deion Sanders is head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Marcus Spears, what do you think of that possibility?
I like the possibility, Rich. I've come around. Last year, if you would have asked me this, I would have said, nah, need to see more. I think, Rich, let's be honest, bro. A lot of times, in this business, people get enamored with names and they get enamored with things. And just to throw Deion's name out there for me was it was really more about prime time and what he did beyond coaching too early, right? Like now we have a 2-year sample size of building culture at Colorado. We have 2 players from Colorado are going to go in the top 10 of the NFL draft. That's a byproduct of Deion, even though one is his son and one is Travis, and Travis probably would have been drafted high wherever he went. But the fact that you was able to get him to commit to Jackson State and then move with you to Colorado tells me a lot about relationships. You see some of these meetings that he have in team meetings. It's a healthy level of respect, but it's also a healthy demand. The coaching staffs that he was able to put together, the people that he was able to attract. Forget the people on the sidelines and everybody that he attracts. This the Dallas Cowboys. People gonna show up to the games, regardless of who the coach is. But I think that coaching substance is really what was on display for me over the last couple of years in Colorado. And that to me leads itself to this. And I said this on Monday Night Countdown last week, Rich. You got to have somebody in the building that can challenge Jerry from a stature standpoint. We all know the stories. You've been covering this game long enough to know that Jerry wants to have his hand in everything. If Jerry was to hire Deion, and make no mistake about it, that Jerry would still be involved. Mm-hmm. But I think Deion would have enough cachet to say, hey, let me handle this, Jerry. Let me take care of this. These things is what we need to change. This is what we need to do. And I think it would fall on Jerry's ears a little differently. And no disrespect, then it coming from Mike McCarthy or Jason Garrett or Wade Phillips. Everybody thought Bill Parcells was going to be able to kind of change that narrative about Jerry being super involved. And I'll tell you this, Rich, if Prime can't do it, it's a lost cause forever, brother, until God called Jerry home. So I think he would be a team builder. I think he would be a culture builder, but more importantly, in that front office, I think he could sit at that table and say, yo, this is what I need in order to make this team better. And I need you to get this done, as opposed to being a subordinate. And sometimes it's super uncomfortable for me to use that word, because these other coaches have a healthy level of respect. Mike McCarthy is a well-respected coach in these circles. But I said it when he was hired, Rich. It was funny. I was on First Take Live when Mike McCarthy got hired. Adam Schefter broke the news. And they asked me how you feel about it. I said, well, I mean, if it's going to be the same old as what Jerry has done, Mike McCarthy will have some success, but nothing will be won and nothing will be different. And at the end, it'll probably be some non-committal situation. I'm not calling myself Nostradamus. I'm just looking at how the three previous worked out before Mike McCarthy showed up. I think Deion could change that.
Nostramarcus Spears here on the Rich Eisen Show from ESPN. So let's jump to the playoffs of the 8 teams remaining, the team to beat. And I know even just asking that question when there's a 15-win team that can three-peat sounds ridiculous, but there are some stout competitors, to say the least. Who's the team to beat of the remaining 8 in these playoffs, Marcus Spears?
Rich, I got to go Baltimore, man. I got to go Baltimore. And it's one thing that scared me beyond the obvious, right? And the apprehensiveness is, obviously you put the Chiefs up there with an asterisk, right? Like, they got to be, well, we'll deal with them. We're going to talk about everybody else, but this is probably the team that we need to isolate and feel more comfortable about them taking care of business. But I think the AFC Championship last year for Lamar is going to put him in a position to do anything he has to do to win these games. And you know as well as I know, Rich, sometimes the do-over is the best thing to happen to you. And to find yourself in this position. And that's from a mental part with Lamar, because I've said it before. I think Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. I think Lamar Jackson is the best football player in the NFL. And there's a difference in that. Even though Lamar plays the position at a very high level, just quarterbacking out of the pocket, I still think there's a magnetic energy around this dude that he can do whatever he wants to do at any time on the field when he makes his mind up to do it. And last year, I was frustrated and came on after the AFC Championship because I felt like he was playing coy and he was trying to be too careful and not just letting it all hang out. I think he does that this year, man. And obviously we know that beast that he has in the backfield with him. They dictate so much of what you can do defensively. Derrick Henry, yep, I see y'all putting up King Henry.
Oh, yeah, with the smile on his face as he's running 40 yards down your throat. I mean, my God.
Knowing that I'm bigger than my old lineman and nobody can catch me once I break through the second part of the line. But yeah, man, and then too, I think this Mark Andrews, I think Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator, has figured out this Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely usage. And Rich, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think it's the most dominant thing in these playoffs is those two tight ends on the field at the same time, because you have to put big personnel on the field to try to defend them. And I don't think safeties and linebackers can defend either one of those guys one-on-one situations.
Marcus Spears here on the Rich Eisen Show. So while we're isolating teams, let's isolate the home teams and the Ravens, who you just said is the team to beat outside of maybe Kansas City. So let's isolate the Rams, Commanders, and Texans. If you had to choose one to go on the deepest run, if not threaten the whole shooting match, it would be who? Marcus?
The Rams, man.
Why is that?
The Rams.
Why is that?
Because one, McVay. I think McVay is as good as it gets, and that performance that the defense coordinator Shula put on against Minnesota, even though he took it from Detroit the week prior, was phenomenal. But I think there is something to Stafford in these moments, his ability to execute, along with Sean McVay. Puka and Cooper being healthy, this offensive line being back intact, Kyron Williams. But Rich, I'm not sure if I'm higher on a singular group in the NFL than this young defensive line from the Rams, bro. They are absolute menaces. And I think they can dictate games. And we saw a lot of that against Minnesota. Obviously, the challenge gets heavier with Philly and that offensive line and what they can do. But the team that I think can challenge out of the NFC, because I have Philly going to the Super Bowl. But I think we'll get the matchup here in a few days. But I think I 100% think the Rams can make a deep playoff run, barring they stay healthy. And with that experience and that head coach on the sideline and that defense playing the way they played, and Dan Orlovsky, I got to give him credit. We both actually have been on this talking about if the Rams get in the playoffs, it's scary because I always try to get people to think in this way. And this is probably why Andy and Pat and Travis have been so good. All you're preparing for is that 3 hours, bro. You're not worried about next week. You're not worried about playoff positioning. You're not worried about keeping guys healthy. What kind of minimal usage can we give a guy and still be effective? Everybody is involved. It's all hands on deck. So you're getting the best coaching, you're getting the best plays, you're getting the best situational football, and you're obviously getting the best performances out of these guys that do it time and time again. And I think the Rams have a little bit of that mixture as well.
So based on what you just said, do you take the Ravens and the Eagles to face each other in the Super Bowl? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
right
that's
now?
who I got. That's who I have in the Super Bowl, man.
Wow.
And I'll probably be proven wrong by Kansas City.
Listen, I chose Kansas City the Tuesday after Labor Day. I stuck with them on game day morning when our producers there give us two options to
because you're smart,
mulligan.
Rich.
Well, I mean they give you an option at Thanksgiving and at the outs before a single playoff game's played on Wild Card Weekend, and I stuck with it. And I appreciate you saying that I'm smart. 2 years ago, I said the Raiders would finally dethrone them in the AFC West. Really, one of the worst calls I've ever had.
That's okay, man.
Behind the fact that the Miami Heat shouldn't trade for Giannis, but that's a different story from a different day. That was I was wrong, and they've won 2 Super Bowls since. Without Tyreek Hill, and then one year they're supposed to, not supposed to do it because Mahomes is hurt. Next year they do it without needing to flip a switch after Christmas. They did it. I mean, that's why you isolate them. You know what I'm saying?
So I'm a LeBron guy, right? But it's like the conversation with Jordan and LeBron, right? I think you put those two in a conversation, and I'm not here to fight basketball, but I think when you having the conversation about greatest of all time, it's those two. And then everybody else that you want to introduce into that conversation, you got to have a crazy, crazy argument. And there's still some apprehension about is the third guy, which is some people that's Kobe, some people Kareem, and is the third guy really like these two? And I think that's how you think about Kansas City. Like, man, like this is Jordan, and we know the Ravens are good. We know Detroit is good. We know that the Buffalo Bills are good and Josh Allen. We know that. But until like they do something, we got to isolate these guys, and they are the only ones a part of that conversation. So it's almost like when you learn in school the understood you in a sentence. That's who the Chiefs are right now.
Yeah,
they understood you.
No, and I know you just made that analogy to the current playoff positioning. I think at the end of the day, potentially the Jordan LeBron argument that we see from different generations now might be Mahomes and Brady one day. Like that may be it. And I don't know, the Kobe is somebody else. It could be Lamar. I don't know.
It could be Lamar.
Allen,
it could be Josh.
Right.
Yep.
Could be.
Like Burrow. I think like Burrow got to obviously they've got to fix things in Cincinnati. But I 100% agree with you, man. Look, if Pat wins this third one now, I got a question for you. You interviewing me, I got a question for you.
All right.
If Pat wins this third one, and we've seen what he's done in his career, is it legitimate to have a conversation about him being the greatest of all time?
Well,
not yet.
Not yet. Because Brady did it. Brady did it into his mid-40s. You know, Brady did it.
You.
Brady did it with one coach. Mahomes is not going to be able to do that. I don't know if Andy Reid's going to be there, you know, at age 70. It's possible he could. I don't know. Brady did it with different teams, 3 out of 4 when he first started. And then he wound up with Gronk and Edelman. You know, he did it in different times. He did it after 9 years. He also blew his knee out one time. I mean, there's so many different things that happened to Brady that we need to see potentially Mahomes negotiate. But in terms of the first part of a career, it's better than Brady's. If he wins this one, I would agree.
I got you.
Marcus, thanks for the time. Let's do this again. How's that sound?
My brother.
And I mean it.
Man,
and that's
anytime,
not one of those
man.
LA things like, let's hang out, and then I never call you. Like, seriously, like, this is the real thing. Thank you.
No doubt. I want to come sit on the seat, man. Sit on the seat and chop it up with you.
Let's do it. Marcus Spears, check him out on all manners ESPN programming right here on The Rich Eisen Show. First time of many. Yeah. That was awesome. That was just great. Catch The Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.